Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the news from SABA Satellite Channel from Mali. Here are tonight's top stories. Member of Presidential Leadership Council Khambashi opens Yemeni Cultural Summit in Mukalla. UN Secretary General welcomes Yemen detainee release deal. Yemen participates in Islamic Culture Ministers meeting in Kazan. Welcome back. Member of the Presidential Leadership Council and Hadramaut Governor Salim Al-Khambashi launched today in Mukalla the Yemeni Culture Summit, a two-day event gathering culture actors from across the governorates. He also officially opened the Arts Zone implemented by the Hadramaut Culture Foundation with support from the European Union, British Council and UNESCO. Al-Khambashi emphasized the role of culture as a tool for peace and social cohesion, highlighting Hadramaut's heritage and traditions. Deputy Minister of Culture and Tourism Hussein Basalam and Hadramaut Culture Foundation Executive Director Shuruq Al-Ramadi stressed that the summit's role in youth empowerment, innovation and shaping Yemen's culture future. In a separate meeting, Governor Al-Khambashi discussed with Deputy Minister Basalam preparations for the Belda tourism season, focusing on developing culture and tourism sectors, activating heritage programs and promoting domestic and international tourism. The discussions emphasized the need for infrastructure improvements, joint planning and institutional partnerships to support sustainable tourism, economic development and job creation in Hadramaut. Member of the Presidential Leadership Council and Governor of Hadramaut Salim Al-Khambashi reviewed today in Mukalla preparations for the workshop ahead of the National Conference on Strengthening Partnership and Integration between the Government and Local Authorities. The review came during his meeting with the Deputy Minister of Local Administration, Mu'in Mahmoud, in the presence of Hadramaut Under-Secretary Hassan Al-Jilani. Al-Khambashi was briefed on the objectives of the workshop, organized by the Ministry of Local Administration in partnership with the Political Development Forum and Germany's Burghoff Foundation, as part of a project to strengthen local authority capacities and support stability. The meeting discussed the workshop's focus on unifying visions between central and local authorities, improving coordination and joint planning, directing resources toward real development priorities, improving public services, and strengthening institutional and administrative stability. Al-Khambashi said effective integration between the government and local authorities is essential for sustainable development and rebuilding public trust in state institutions. Member of the Presidential Leadership Council, Abdullah Al-Alimi, said the humanitarian agreement reached in Amman to release detainees marks an important step toward easing Yemeni suffering and restoring hope to thousands of families waiting for their loved ones. In a press statement, Al-Alimi said the agreement reflects the importance of prioritizing humanitarian considerations and sends a message that dialogue and confidence building can help address urgent humanitarian files. He praised the government negotiation team for its national spirit, patience, and commitment throughout the process, stressing that the suffering of families and the right of every detainee to return home were placed above all considerations. Al-Alimi also thanked Saudi Arabia for its constructive role in supporting peace and stability efforts, Jordan for hosting and facilitating the consultations, Oman for launching the negotiation track in Muscat, as well as the United Nations Special Envoy's Office and the International Committee of the Red Cross. He expressed hope that the agreement would help fully close the detainees' file and open a wider path toward peace and stability. The United Nations Secretary General has welcomed the agreement reached between the parties to the conflict in Yemen to release more than 1,600 conflict-related detainees. He described the deal as the largest agreed release since the start of the conflict, following weeks of direct negotiations in Amman under the United Nations auspices. In a statement issued by his spokesperson, Mr. Guterres called on the parties to move swiftly to implement the agreement in cooperation with the ICRC, so families can be reunited as soon as possible.
The Secretary General calls on the parties to move swiftly towards implementing the deal in cooperation with the International Committee of the Red Cross, so that families can be reunited as soon as possible. He also calls on them to work towards further releases, in line with their obligations under the 2018 Stockholm Agreement to release all conflict-related detainees for all. He calls on the government of Yemen and the Houthis to build on the positive momentum generated by Thursday's deal and engage constructively with the special envoy in Yemen towards an inclusive political process for a just and lasting peace in Yemen. The Secretary General further urges the Houthis to immediately and unconditionally release all arbitrarily detained personnel from the United Nations, NGOs, civil society, and diplomatic missions.
International reactions continue to welcome the Amman detainee release agreement, with the United Kingdom and Germany calling for swift and full implementation. The United Kingdom and Germany welcomed the announcement by United Nations Special Envoy Hans Gramberg on the agreement to release more than 1,600 conflict-related detainees in Yemen. UK Ambassador Abida Sharif said the agreement is a positive and tangible step that could bring long-awaited relief to thousands of Yemeni families. She called for building on this momentum through full and timely implementation of the agreement, praising the efforts of the United Nations, the International Committee of the Red Cross, and Saudi Arabia. Sharif also called for the immediate release of all those still arbitrarily detained by the Houthi militia, including humanitarian workers, saying their detention obstructs the delivery of life-saving aid. German Ambassador Thomas Schneider also welcomed the agreement, describing it as good news for Yemen, and urged swift implementation to allow detainees to reunite with their families. The deal was reached after 14 weeks of negotiations in Amman under United Nations auspices, with ICRC involved in implementation. Yemen participated in the 14th meeting of culture ministers of the Organization of Islamic Cooperation held in Kazan, Tetristan, under the theme Dialogue of Civilization. The delegation was headed by Minister of Culture and Tourism Muti' Damaj. The meeting brings together culture ministers from member states of the Islamic world educational, scientific, and cultural organizations to discuss ways to strengthen cultural cooperation and civilization and dialogue across the Islamic world. In his statement, Damaj said the world needs culture as a force capable of rebuilding bridges between peoples, promoting dialogue, peace, and coexistence, and protecting societies from racism, extremism, and hate speech. He said the cultural and civilizational richness of the Islamic world faces major challenges, including distortion campaigns and the practices of extremist groups. The Majd called for a comprehensive culture strategy to protect heritage, manuscripts, and antiquities, support creative industries, empower young creators, invest in digital transformation, and confront hatred and extremism. On the sidelines of the 14th meeting of culture ministers of the Organization of Islamic Cooperation in Kazan, Minister of Culture and Tourism Muti' Damaj met with the Russian Minister of Culture Olga Lyubimova to discuss strengthening cultural cooperation between Yemen and Russia. The meeting reviewed cooperation in museums and antiquities, including benefiting from Russia's experience in digital museums. The two sides also discussed cooperation in cinema, arts, joint cultural production, arts institutes, and cultural knowledge exchange programs. The meeting touched on the importance of resuming the activities of the Russian Culture Center from the temporary capital aiding to strengthen cultural and artistic exchange between the two countries. The Russian minister praised cultural relations with Yemen and invited Yemen to participate in several international culture events hosted by Russia, including Intermuseum, the International Children's Culture Forum, and the St. Petersburg International Forum of the United Cultures. That was the news from SABA Satellite Channel. Thank you for watching and have a good time.